Welcome to Complicated Opportunities. This week, you guys are going to be treated to kind of a compilation of the interviews that I did at JordanCon. This past week, Irving and I were at GenCon, and we're still recovering a little bit, but you can be looking forward to us recapping GenCon at some point in the future, especially since we can start talking about all of the awesome things that we heard from Brotherwise Games concerning the CosmereRPG and Plotweaver. So sit back, relax, and enjoy these few interviews that I performed at JordanCon. Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. Today, though, I have the privilege of being joined by Erin Ampersand. She is a writer in the LitRPG genre, and honestly, I'm fascinated by the genre because it's something I'm just now starting to get into. So when I saw she was going to be at JordanCon, I wanted to reach out and see if she'd be down to sit down. So we're going to go through some of her history, talk about her books, and let her get on about her convention day. So, Erin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. My name is Erin Ampersand. I write the LitRPG series Apocalypse Parenting, which I self-published a few years ago and recently got picked up by Tor Books for physical publication starting this summer, August 18th. Book 1 will be out in bookstores. I'm really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them on shelves.
Yes!
So, awesome. Yes. Well, so go ahead and just tell me how you got into it, because we were talking a little before, and I was like, we need to hit record. This is great.
Okay. So, I've wanted to be an author since I realized that books were written by people and not manifested from the heavens. I don't know what I thought in kindergarten. I distinctly remember, though, finding out that books were written by people at age 7, and I'm like, holy cannoli. I need to do this. My ambitions did not play out as smoothly as perhaps tiny me would have liked, but we've gotten here eventually. So I've always been trying to write, always been into fantasy, sci-fi, big Sanderson fan myself, of course. But round about the pandemic, I started really getting into LitRPG just because it's a really, I don't want to say a lighthearted genre, because there's a lot of dark things that happen, but I would say an uplifting genre, because LitRPG and its sort of sister genre, progression fantasy, which a lot of Sanderson's works get put into, it has this sort of underlying framework of growth, of progress, of no matter what bad things happen, you can improve in ways that can't get taken away. And I don't think it's insane to look around the world and see why that appeals to so many people. What I was talking with Kyle about before we started recording, I love the genre. I have loved it, since I ran into it. But as I was reading it, I kept coming across the same things. Protagonists that were male, probably between the ages of 16 and 30, probably didn't have anybody relying on them. They weren't relying on anybody. Just these lone wolf kind of main characters. And I was still enjoying the books. I'm not knocking that kind of thing. But I am not a young man between the ages of 16 and 30 with no one relying on me and nobody to rely on. And I started thinking as I was reading them, can we tell in this genre a very different kind of story? And that's what I decided to write. So my main character is a Megan Moretti. She's, mid-late 30s, mother of 3 young children. And it's when aliens, basically, the premise is going to sound real similar to Dungeon Crawler Carl here. We started writing at the same time, independent of each other, whatever. Start basically making Earth a sort of reality TV show. Monsters start appearing, everybody gets powers. Well, they don't have a real concept of childhood, so Megan's 3 young children also get powers, so she not only has to fight the monsters and protect her kids, she also has to keep them from accidentally murdering each other in sibling squabbles. She has to teach them to fight monsters, because at some point the aliens will force them to, and they'd better be ready. And it just leads to a lot of really, really fun and really interesting scenarios.
That premise sounds awesome to me. I actually even though I am the stereotypical fantasy fan, almost 40-year-old male white dude, I actually have really enjoyed like hearing a lot of branching out that people have been writing. My wife she's a big romantasy fan, so I just read Quicksilver. Okay. And I loved the protagonist in that because she was a female that was like 25 to 30. She had lived a life. Like the first time they go to a bar, she's like, oh man, that guy, I got to look at him again. Like, it's not just like, I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and know nothing about the world and teach me everything, everybody. So like, I love that when a protagonist has like life experience. Like, that's just interesting. So like, so I guess like, what about your background got you to go down the LitRPG path? Like, was there any gaming, any like video games, board games, tabletop games?
No, I have always enjoyed gaming. From like the time that I was 5 years old, my dad was one of the first families I knew. We had a personal computer. We played like some 8-bit, like 16-bit stuff. Like he brought home some like shareware, like Commander Keen.
Nice.
I was terrible at Commander Keen. I thought I was so good at Commander Keen. Regardless.
You're taking me back, though.
Yeah, never really had consoles until my younger siblings got big enough for them. But got pretty big into gaming, board gaming. I think kind of simultaneous to board gaming becoming a big thing in the country. Because, when we were small, obviously, like, there was Risk and there was Monopoly, and, like, if you didn't like it, too bad. But, like, my author bio on Amazon claims that my husband and I own enough board games to capsize a standard canoe, and I believe that to be true.
That's awesome.
I haven't tried, because, I like all our board games, but it's a lot. It's problematically a lot.
No such thing.
And big into video games and stuff as well. Love D&D. So yeah, if it's a game, I probably enjoy it. Not a big first-person shooter platformer, but other than that, if it's a game, I'm probably there for it.
No, I totally get it. I grew up with, I think Final Fantasy VII was the first game where I was like, I am buying a console so I can play this game.
Oh, so I didn't have a console, but some of my besties did, so I have vicariously enjoyed Final Fantasy VII.
So what have been some of the fun things you found out about yourself while you've been writing, through your journey becoming an indie author and now getting to be published?
Well, one thing is, when I mentioned to Kyle before we started recording that my past is a graveyard of dead zombie novels that just never fully came to life. And I realize now that is my fault. I did it myself because I had some fundamental misconceptions about authoring in general and what kind of author I was. Because you read, these guides on you read from like published authors talking about how they write, and there is a lot from the plotters. There is a lot from the planners who are out there saying like, you got to plan every little thing. You got to plan them really well so everything gets together and there's no surprises. And I'm like, I keep failing because I'm not planning well enough. Well, for me, what was happening is I was just choking the life out of my novels because when I plan too hard, I don't deviate when I need to. And I don't let the characters live and breathe and grow, and they start feeling kind of cardboard, and I end up hating everything I've written. For me, it's very important to, I do a lot of world building. I do a lot of setting building, character building type stuff. But with plot, I will always have a path that I can follow to get to the end, but I can't write it down, because when you write it down, maybe this is obviously a me thing, but I don't change from it when I need to.
Right.
I need to, if I just have it in my head, if I've never written it down, I don't feel like I have to stick with it. And so things change as I'm going along, and the story breathes, the character breathes. It just ends up a lot better for me.
That's awesome. I mean, because when we were talking before we hit record, like I was an English major in college, thought I'd be a writer. Honestly, I don't think I have the patience for it. But that's where like TTRPGs really have helped me out, because I get to flex my creativity bug a little bit. But I found that I thought with an RPG, I had to plan out every single thing about a campaign, every story beat, every whatever. And then as I'm playing them now, I'm realizing, no, the fun part's just to have a general idea of where you're going. And, you know, we're both Sanderson fans. The journey is more important than the destination. Like, how we get there is the fun part. And seeing how people grow and expand and all of that. So in that vein, like how with the lit RPG genre, there's a lot of like putting that progression in. Like I just got done reading the Cradle series when you talked about progression fantasy. And that was new for me. Like I'd never thought of Sanderson in progression fantasy. I see that now.
Yeah, especially like Stormlight Archive has a very distinct, you've got those.
The ideals.
Yeah, and those are very like, pretty much with progression, it's like the distinct tiers of progress. And sorry, do you want to actually finish your question?
No, you're good. You go right ahead. You're heading where I was going anyway, so let's just roll with it.
So with LitRPG, you know, LitRPG is almost always progression fantasy as well, but then the difference is that there is some kind of game-like element to it. And there's a lot of subgenres. There's VR MMO stories where it's either trapped in a game, like sort of like the anime Sword Art Online, or, you know, for some reason, there's some personal reason, maybe they're trying to make money and they're in this poor situation, whatever. So that's a subgenre. My story is a sort of game system apocalypse subgenre where for some reason, and we have come up with a plethora of reasons, some sort of game-like magical system descends on the real world. And, you know, honestly, there's a lot of like urban fantasy and stuff that deals with the idea of like magic descending on the real world. Like Rachel Aaron's, have you read Rachel Aaron's DFC series?
I haven't. I don't think I have.
So good. DFC stands for Detroit Free Zone. It's nutty. I love it. And she's on Kindle Unlimited as well. So.
Sweet.
I think a lot of people hear LitRPG and they think it's going to be something like the Choose Your Own Adventure books that we read as kids.
That was, I'm not going to lie, that's where my brain went originally until I dove further into it.
No, it's not like that at all. It's literally just, if you've ever played a game and you've ever thought to yourself, if I was in this game, I would do things differently. I would make different choices. I would be this class. I would be that class. Then I think LitRPG has a lot to offer you because, I mean, there's a lot in games that draws the.
So with the LitRPG elements and the leveling up and the classes, like, how did you come up with the ways that you wanted your characters to go through that progression?
So, there's a lot of I would almost say that there's two halves to the LitRPG genre. And the one half is very much like the power fantasy. Often they'll stick very close to an established system. Not always, but, and, you know, no shade. Like, that's what some people want to read. And some authors are really good at providing just that power fantasy. Character is immediately exceptional, immediately, like, just way beyond human, way beyond, you know, the people around them. Big old trip that way. I wanted to stick, personally, a little bit closer to the real world, because I wanted to show growth. And if you can immediately start, like, punching rocks apart, it's hard to see how much stronger the character gets from there. So I tried to design a system that my goal going in when I was designing the system for my characters was to cut out absolutely everything that I didn't need from the system and leave just enough to be interesting. Because I like, as I'm reading, to sort of like theory craft, you know, think, oh, what would I do? What should the character do? Etc. But I find that with a lot of books that really get into like, you know, oh, he gained 3 strength or whatever, there's a lot of words devoted to things that I don't devote a lot of mental space to.
Right.
Like, if I'm reading a book, generally speaking, I have no idea what the character's strength score is. I might have, like, a general idea, like, oh, this person has a lot less strength or a lot more strength than the people around them. But I don't have any idea about the numbers. So I didn't put in numbers that I personally wouldn't care about. And, some people don't like that and some people do. But yeah, so in my system, it's very, you get stronger as you sort of level up. You get tougher as you sort of level up. And at every level, each character in the story each person gets an ability of their choice that can either be like an active or a passive ability. So if you want a character that's particularly tough, they have probably made the active choice to take a ability that makes them particularly tough. And then these abilities can synergize in different ways. And so the characters have this constant sort of competing pulls on them. Do I take abilities that are all very similar to each other and become very, very strong in this limited slice of things? Or do I take a spread of abilities? No individual ability is quite as strong, but I have a lot more tactical flexibility.
Nice.
So.
Which that actually speaks, I'm an Elden Ring player. So that's become my game of I just need to veg out for 2 hours. I'm just going to go watch myself die 100 times in 2 hours. Oh. But I love to min-max. But then I do always have that in the back of my head of maybe if I was just a little better at this, that might be a smarter choice. So that's a fun way to work that into a story.
Well, and also one thing that I like to have Megan keep running up against is, she's a bit of a gamer herself, so she has this gaming background that you and I and probably most of your listeners have, but in real life things are a little different. As you just said, you like to go veg out and die 200 times in an hour. Megan's not allowed to die even once. It's right. Very unfair for her.
Yeah, I know, right? She can't just try it again.
No. So how does that affect your choices? And it helps too, can you work with other people? If you can, maybe you can support some specialists. But what if something happens from this unfair system that's been imposed on Earth and those specialists get caught on their own? Do you want to just lose your specialists in that situation?
Right.
So it's difficult choices. It's not very fun for Megan, but it was fun to write, and a lot of people have said it's fun to read. So hopefully, If anybody checks it out, they feel that way too.
Yeah. So is there anything else about writing? I don't want to take up too much of your time because we've got the convention going. But is there anything else about your books that you want to go into detail-wise? Because I also don't want you to spoil everything, so that way people might pick it up and read it. But even just things you found that surprised you about writing, challenges or ways you wrote that you didn't think you would.
Mostly the big, as I said, I've been wanting to be a writer since I was 7. So a lot of the things, didn't come up to me recently. The whole sort of writing process thing was a big surprise to me, and I felt very, very silly. But obviously, those of us who don't exhaustively plan and plot don't have large books about how we do it. So I always, whenever anybody talks to me, try to say, hey, you might write like this too. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It's just, if you have, no matter what your writing style is, if you're really good at it, people won't be able to tell. If you make mistakes, people will probably be able to tell how you write, but that's true whether you're a plotter or a pantser, as they call it. Or I think Brandon calls it discovery writer, which sounds a lot more refined.
I think a gardener is what people called George Martin.
Okay.
That he's he has a general idea, but he'll let the story go as it develops and just follow the path of the characters. No. I struggle letting go of the control for that. I think it's my issue with when I'm writing that stuff.
Everybody has their system and what works for them, and it's different for every person. I was talking with a writer at a different convention, Shammy Stovall, and she was telling me the level to which she plans her stories, and it sounded horrific to me. I was cringing inside, but I read her books and I enjoyed them, and I started describing what I did, and I could see her eyes go wide. It was both of our writing processes were terrifying to the other person.
That's hilarious.
But, I like her books.
Yeah.
So, her way works, my way works. hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So.
So was there anything about the genre that surprised you as you were writing and how fans reacted to it?
I mean, I guess honestly, just the how welcoming overall the community has been. I mean, I won't say there's no there's no gatekeeping whatsoever, but I kind of wrote this thinking like this is what I would like to read, and I'm going to write it. And I've been surprised at the amount of buy-in, the amount of reviews that I get where people are like, "Hey, I'm a dad, and I really feel seen with this. Hey, I'm a, mom, and I really, this, I've never felt a book I connect with like this." And I mean, not just the moms and the dads, but, when you see a lot of these, lone alpha male wolf kind of guy books, you might make assumptions about how the community is. But a lot of the community has really, and I won't say you don't find people who are not welcoming, but a lot of the community has made a conscious choice to open the gates, open the doors, and invite other people in. Famously, the progression fantasy subreddit on Reddit, they changed their logo for Pride Month a couple years back. And every time they got a complaint about it, they said they were going to extend it for another month. And after over a year, they're like, okay, we're just going to redesign our logo to incorporate the pride flag because it's important to us that these people who might feel marginalized know that they're welcome. So we're just permanently going to emblazon how welcome they are on our logo. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I 100% agree with that. That's cool that they did that too. I might have to remember that for our logo later. So that's a cool story there.
Yeah.
So let's see. That was most of the questions I had up front. But do you want to talk a little bit about your journey from being a self-published author to getting picked up?
Oh, sure.
Because that's such exciting news. I'm so excited for you.
It's so wild. And I don't have time constraints really.
Okay, cool.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
I don't have anything else till 11.
Yeah,
so you just let me know what you got going on.
No, I'm good. So started out writing on Royal Road, which is very, very typical for the LitRPG genre, and I think sort of self-published progression fantasy in general. You're writing, you put it up on Royal Road. If anybody is listening to this thinks about doing that, do a guide. Search for there's guide out there. I forget off the top of my head who wrote it, but if you search how to be successful on Royal Road, there are guides on more or less how to prepare to work the algorithms to give yourself the best shot. I didn't do that. I just kind of started writing, sort of gradually picked up speed, got really excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is working and I didn't plan it at all or do any of the things I'm supposed to do. Hey, wait a second. So maybe I wasn't supposed to, but I, picked up readers and again, doing things I shouldn't have done. Got a book done. I was like, oh my God, I wrote a book. I better put this on Amazon right away, which is not necessarily what you want to do. It's probably would have been smarter for me to stay on Royal Road, build up a bigger following of free readers, build up a following on Patreon, but I was too excited. So I didn't do that either. Published on Amazon, self-published, with a terrible cover I made myself. Podium Audio, I built up enough buzz, actually reached out to me and were like, hey, would you like us to do an audiobook of your books? And I asked around, talked to a few other audiobook people, and Royal Guard Publishing is actually, they're fabulous people. They're like, oh yeah, that's a good offer. You should go with that. I'm like, okay then. Super swell people, amazing people.
That's awesome.
And so I ended up getting published by Podium for audio, kept being self-published on Amazon, and they let me use the covers that they make for the audio. So those are the J. Caleb covers that you'll still see on the audiobooks right now. And kept going with that for a few years. A year and a half, 2 years into it, I noticed one day that I'd gotten a review on one of my books from Felicia Day. Now, for those of you who don't know who Felicia Day is, She wrote and produced The Guild, which was a sort of online video series about leading an MMO guild, which is something that I also did in my past.
Nice.
And being a woman leading a serious MMO guild is it has unique challenges, and so I really vibed with Felicia pretty hard there, and I've been a fan of her forever. So when I saw this review on my book from Felicia Day, I'm like, is it fake? Is it just somebody calling themselves Felicia Day? So like I reach out to like her assistant, and I'm like, is this real? And they're like, yes, that's real. I'm that's amazing. So I was just happy about that for another year and a half, 2 years or so. And Felicia Day came to a conference near where I live. And my husband's like, you should go say hi to her. She liked your books. I'm like, I don't know about that. But, you know, he bullied me until I did it. I brought her a signed copy of my book. She was excited to meet me, which, like, I was like, what? Why are you... But, okay, cool. Awesome. Great. Awesome. And so that was wonderful. That was spring of last year. Late last summer, Felicia Day reaches out to me on social media, and she's like, hey, do you have any interest in being traditionally published? And I'm like, yes. Yes. Also, yes. Why? She's like, oh, because I recommended your books to my agent, and she loves them. And I'm like, thank you, my personal angel, Felicia Day. So she hooked me up with her agent, who is now my agent, and it's been a kind of whirlwind since then. There were, I don't want to say things I shouldn't say. I'm not super sure what I'm supposed to say. I think I can say that there was more than one publisher interested in my series.
Nice.
But Tor was very interested. They were willing to pick up all 5 books I'm technically a debut author with them because I've never been traditionally published before. All my books were out on ebook already, except for book 5, which comes out this summer. Book 5 ebook, which is the last book in the series, comes out simultaneous to the book 1 of the trade paperback with Tor. With their enthusiasm and, they've just been really wonderful to work with through the whole process. I won't say it was an easy decision to go with them, but that's just because I was so overwhelmed by the whole process. I've been very, very pleased with my decision to go with them. And, so not a very useful framework for anybody else to follow.
Every author I've ever talked to has said the same thing. They're like, the way I did it, it won't work. I did it all wrong. I did it this way. Yeah. I did it that way. So it does sound like it's just such a personal journey for every single person. Yeah. But yeah, that's like something to be super proud of, though.
I feel incredibly blessed, incredibly grateful, incredibly excited. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking to me today.
It was fun.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's probably weird a guy just being like, hey, want to do an interview that you've never met before at a convention? But thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. Is there anything else you want to shout out? When does everything drop?
August 18th, book 1 will come out in physical bookstores.
Nice.
If anybody feels like supporting indie authors in general, please come and check it out. Hopefully you enjoy it. Book 5 will be out on ebook on the same day, so if you are not a patient person who wants to go with the flow and or you like ebooks, you can just binge the whole series on August 18th. Probably it will take more than one day to finish the whole series, but you can start.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And until next time, let's roll the plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities. Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. Today I'm going to be joined by Sarah Madsen. She's a game designer that is here at JordanCon. So we'll just turn it over to you, Sarah. Let you introduce yourself, and then we'll just have a conversation about your history with TTRPGs.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarah Madsen. I'm an author and a TTRPG game designer. In game design, I have written a ton for Kobold Press. You probably also know me from Keys from the Golden Vault and Candlekeep Mysteries with Wizards of the Coast. I've also done The Faster Purple Worm Volume 1 with Beetle and Grimm, and a ton of other folks. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so, just to get started, what's your history with TTRPGs? As a player, as a GM, and then we'll work into working at it, too.
So, I grew up in the 80s, and I knew about D&D, but as a kid in the 80s that did not know about game stores, I had no idea how one would go about finding or playing or any of that with D&D. So I existed in the ecosystem with the cartoon and everything else for a while, but I actually didn't play any games until I got to college.
I have a very similar background as well, because I grew up in the 80s, couldn't access,
right. I'm
played in college.
How does somebody, I don't know. And so I feel like back then, if you, it was very much like if your parents played, you played. But it was harder to kind of access it than it is these days. But when I started playing in college, I played through a bunch of systems. I played D&D. I played a bunch of World of Darkness games, both tabletop, and I LARPed Vampire the Masquerade for 15 years.
Nice.
Met my husband there and everything. Great. It's great. And then actually from that LARP, I was part of a worldwide organization that had interconnected games, and I met a whole bunch of people. And one of the people that I was friends with knew that I was a writer and that I was a gamer, and she had a friend who was trying to write his own source book, and he needed people. And so she reached out to me, and at the time I was like, I haven't even played 5th edition D&D, so I can't make you mechanics, but I can do world building and stuff. I know how to do that. And so he brought me on to do a chapter for his book, and that was my first introduction to game writing. Honestly, until then, I hadn't even thought about that as a thing you could do. I knew there were books that have rules in them, but connecting those dots of oh, this is something you could do as a career.
Right.
Never really, it didn't really click until that. And I was like, oh, somebody wants to pay me to do that? That's pretty neat. Okay. And so, yeah, and then it just sort of snowballed from there, and now here I am, so.
That's awesome. So you're also an author.
Yes.
So what kind of books do you typically write? What genres? What kind of characters?
I write in the sci-fi fantasy umbrella, just kind of in general. My 2 published books that I have right now are Weaver's Folly, which is a cyberpunky urban fantasy set in near future Atlanta. So for those familiar with Shadowrun, it's got a very Shadowrun-y vibe to it. And then my most recent release that just came out a couple weeks ago is called When the Stars Bleed. It's a space opera. I played the Mass Effect trilogy for the first time and got brain rot.
Love it.
Then that's what happened. And I have a couple other books, some that are half written, some that are done and aren't ever going to see the light of day. Teen vampire novel in the vein of Vampire Diaries and Twilight. That was my first. It was my first, but I don't know that it will ever go anywhere. But, and then my most recent one that I'm actually 2/3 of the way through working on is kind of a fantasy Dracula in South Georgia in the late 1800s.
That sounds sick.
So we'll see how that goes.
Hey, my wife and I definitely got caught up. My wife especially got caught up in the Twilight phase.
Yes.
But True Blood was actually her favorite. So Southern vampires.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
Come on, that just lends itself to fun.
Well, it's so good because you got the good Southern Gothic juiciness, right? That you could just play with. So
yeah, we just went to New Orleans for a conference 2 years ago, and just walking around is you feel like you're in a novel.
Right.
It totally makes sense. So what kind of players did you play? Do you have a particular archetype you always play? I'm not gonna lie, I always play a paladin.
I'm a rogue.
I'm lame.
I'm a rogue. I'm a rogue main. Yeah, always. Right now I'm playing a monk, which is
nice. Those are fun.
A little different, but it's still, it's still in the same vein of fast and maneuver. Lots of them be able to maneuver around the battlefield and hit hard. So yeah, the rogue, the sneak attack, the sneaking, and the being the high dex characters that's my vibe.
Heck yeah. So now I'm a giant Mass Effect fan. Have been since 2000. Like I bought the first one the day it came out.
Yeah.
So you just recently played it?
Well, this was probably about 10 years ago now.
Okay.
I think that I first played it. The whole thing was out. I had actually found I hadn't played any of the BioWare games. Mm-hmm. Well, I played Neverwinter Nights, but since then I didn't play Dragon Age, I didn't play Mass Effect. And then I found Dragon Age and played that and fell in love with that. In fact, I love that one more than Mass Effect, but they're both fabulous. And then I played the first trilogy. I played the first one and was like, okay, that was all right. And then
you played the second one.
Just, oh my god, it was
I always tell people, like, the first one you play for the story, the second one you play for the characters, and the third one's just the best overall adventure.
Yeah, and my poor husband was laughing at me because I started the third one, and there's the opening scene on Earth, and he turns around and I'm sobbing, right? Yeah. I'm sitting on the couch, like, with the PlayStation controller in my hand, just crying, and he's like, what is going on? I was like, I'm being emotionally abused by a video game. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, I also remember playing Dragon Age Origins when it came out.
Oh, so good.
I'm still shocked nobody's really developed it for the tabletop too much.
So they have one. Green Ronin, I think, is the company that did it. They did a Dragon Age, I think. I'm like 99% sure, but it didn't take off for some reason. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. That's wild to me because, like, man, those games are so much fun.
They're so good.
And I even like 2 a little bit. I know that's kind of blasphemy, but
2 is fantastic. 2 has its problems, but like if you ignore those problems,
correct.
But that 2 is also like the characters are great, and the fact that the scope is so much like the first one, you're like the world is ending, right? And the second one, you're like, okay,
we
but
gotta save our city.
The city, and it's so like it feels claustrophobic almost, partially because of the scope of the game, and partially because I think of the constraints of the development, but I kind of love that.
Yes.
Like, I kind of love that it's like you're stuck in this little city and you're having to deal with all of these little problems, and I mean, they get bigger, but it's just here. It's just this one spot.
Sometimes there's something to be said for that. Like, I love me some epic fantasy, obviously wearing my Sanderson stuff, like, but there is something to be said for, like, we're having this adventure in this city.
Yeah.
So, awesome.
Yeah.
So, I guess, like, really, main reason I reached out to you is because you do design for TTRPGs. So, like, how has that been? Like, we don't have to go too crazy into stuff, but, like, I'm very fascinated by the process of, like, writing the adventure, and then do you test your own stuff, like, with your play group, or do you have someone else test it since you might be too close to it?
So it depends on the project and who's doing it. A lot of the companies that I work for have their own play testing process that they put it through. So I could place test it, but they're gonna put it through their own process anyway. But I've definitely, like, for Kobold Press, some of the adventures I've written for them, I've run through and play tested things. But honestly, I just don't have the time to play test everything I design. So I rely heavily on, like, the companies themselves doing a lot of that.
So how many companies are you typically working for at one time?
3 or 4.
Okay.
I'll usually have, like, simultaneous contracts with, various different deadlines. And so, like, right now, I've actually got 5 on my books right now that I'm simultaneously working for. And that's a little bit much. But, yeah, between 3 and 4 usually is kind of where I'm at. And it also depends on the size of the project I'm doing at the time and how much time it demands of me and what the deadlines are and everything. But yeah.
So what? So when you're doing, like, so you've written traditionally, like, published novels, and then you've written these adventures. Like, so how is that different? Because it seems to me like they're so completely different.
Yeah.
So, like, where do the skills kind of overlap, and then what kind of different skills do you have to have too?
Well, I mean, the trick so when you're writing novels, you're in complete control.
Right.
You have control over the narrative, you have control over the characters, the world, the plot, everything, which is both a blessing and a curse, right? Because you're like, oh no, now I have to come up with everything.
Yep.
When you're writing adventures, it's much more about providing the framework for the DM and the characters to play in. And so there's sort of freedom in adventure writing to a certain degree where you're like, well, I can come up with these situations, and here are a few directions in which you could go in, and, like, oh, that's cool. You kind of get to explore the what ifs with that a little bit. Or you can still do that with novel writing as you're doing the process, right? But it's not so much on the page in the same way. From like an actual publishing perspective, it's a completely different monster, because with freelancing, with game writing, I write it, I turn it in. I might have 1 or 2 edits depending on who I'm working for, but then like I don't see it again until it comes out eventually. With a book, you're much more involved in the like all of the different revision passes and the editing and the copy editing and the everything else, and so yeah.
Nice. So when you're writing for the RPGs, and like, how hard is it to? I feel like you almost have to would have to rein yourself in at some point where it's like, I could do all of these branching paths because you put yourself in the GM's shoes.
Yes. Well, the one thing about that is usually I have a word count that I can't go over.
Gotcha.
So they're like, we need you to write an adventure, and it's going to be 10,000 words. And you can't really go over that, because then they get cranky with you, because then they have to start cutting stuff out. So that in of itself limits it. And then just, you kind of get a vibe for it after you do it enough to figure out, like, what are the main paths that people could go down. Because you can't account for everything, because we all know players, and we all know they're going to do something you don't expect. You're going to plan for 10 things, and they're going to do the 11th thing,
every time.
Right? Every time. And so it's giving the GM enough information to run through it, but then enough information to also, if their players do go off the rails, to know how to handle that, to understand the story, to understand the characters that are involved, to be like, okay, well, if you do that, how would the situation or the characters or the monsters or whatever, how would they react to that? So that's the key with that, is really giving the GMs like the motivation and the narrative understanding, so that they can go on the fly with whatever their characters are doing. So yeah.
So what's the coolest story anybody's ever come up and told you about one of their adventures playing your adventures?
So my favorite, when I wrote Candlekeep Mystery, or when I wrote A Deep and Creeping Darkness for Candlekeep Mysteries, I have an NPC that you meet that's non-binary. Mm-hmm. And then the mayor of the town that you go to, she's gay.
Okay.
And they're not huge NPCs. One of them you talk to, the mayor you don't even actually ever meet. But a friend of mine was running it, and they were running for a group, and one of the people, I guess they ran it at their friend's house. Their friend had a child who identifies as non-binary. Okay. And they had never really been interested in D&D before. They sort of sat around as everybody else played, and they would like draw and not super be involved, but they would be around. But as my friend was running through this adventure, like as soon as they got to the non-binary NPC, like the kid like kind of perked up and was like, oh, and by the time like they found out that like the mayor was gay and everything else, like this child apparently was like so excited and like was begging them to run a game for them and everything. And it just,
that's awesome.
It makes me so happy, because I was like, with things like RPGs, your imagination is the limit, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's telling you specifically, you can't be here. You can't play a non-binary PC, or you can't. But sometimes seeing yourself in it as that small difference of being like, oh, I wasn't being told I couldn't, but now I know I can.
Yes.
Now I know I'm welcome here.
That's awesome.
And like, my friend sent me that story, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna cry. I did. I totally like it. I'm like, that's it. I have one D&D. Congratulations. I can die happy now.
Achievement unlocked.
Yes. So not only bringing, a young new player in, but somebody who, didn't really think that the space was for them. Mm-hmm. Not by any actively being pushed out, but simply because they hadn't ever seen themselves represented yet. So yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's no way we're going to top that.
Nope. Nope, I'm done.
Yeah, no, like, it's interesting because as a straight white dude, like, I'm the generic everybody writes for me, right? But it has been really cool jumping into this space in particular, because, like, I live in rural West Virginia. Diversity's not something I'm exposed to a lot, but I have in my family. Like, my sister's gay. She's cool with me saying that, by the way. But like, so are most of my friends. Like, my fraternity in college, I picked the one fraternity that 50% of the brotherhood nationwide is gay.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it was interesting, like, me seeing through being able to step into their shoes and see through their eyes.
Yeah.
And it is odd. I didn't realize how because the stereotype for D&D is straight white dude in their mom's basement with a big beard, probably hasn't talked to a woman in 20 years. I've been genuinely shocked and enjoying how much that space has changed.
Yes.
And I can absolutely cut this part of the conversation if we need to, because I don't know if this is the greatest way to ask it, but being a woman in the writing space, historically that probably wasn't the case. Did you face any challenges coming in, or have you been welcomed with open arms as you should be?
I've been very lucky in that I've not really faced, at least not that I've been aware of, right? Any obvious hurdles or roadblocks that I have seen. There may have been some that, even subconsciously people have done, but that I have been aware of that I've looked at and been like, well, that sucked. For the most part, but when I started gaming, my gaming group was my boyfriend and all of his dude friends, right? I was the token girl in the gaming group for a long time, even when the boyfriend left, and I stuck around and I was still the girl in the group.
Right.
But it is very refreshing these days, especially as a freelancer, that landscape has changed a lot. It used to be all, like you said, all white dudes in the writer's room, which is just kind of how it was. And now it's very rare that I sit down for a writer's meeting and I'm like, I'm the only femme person in this room. Most of the time, both from there are people of color, there are other femme or non-binary people in the room, and it's definitely been really refreshing to see that.
Awesome.
And maybe it helps that I've only, in the past 5 to 8 years come into the scene, so it's already been changing.
Gotcha.
It may have been 20 years ago. It may have been a different story.
Right.
But, yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, even in our play group, we have, I'm lucky enough that my play group is fairly diverse, more on the LGBTQ spectrum than anything else, just because, again, West Virginia, very, but online gaming has really made that a big deal, because I actually play most of my games on Roll20, on Foundry. So I'm my play group has one guy in Charleston, West Virginia, one guy in Pittsburgh, someone in Michigan. We're all over the country. But we've been lucky enough that our play group has been pretty diverse, which has led to a lot of better storytelling.
Yeah,
because it's not all coming from one perspective.
Yes.
Big fan of inclusivity in games around here. So, so is there anything else that you wanted to go over? Our audience is growing. I'm not going to pretend like we've got this massive listener base. Sorry, guys. Love you all, though. But as we're seeking out more and more to play, we obviously partner a lot with Brotherwise because of the CosmereRPG.
Right.
But we all have experience. Most of mine was actually with the West End Star Wars game. Showing my age here, but the D20 Star Wars was what I played the most. But my co-host, who's not here today, but Irving, he's been a dungeon master for 10 years.
Right.
But we always looking for other systems too. So what are some fun systems that aren't just 5e based that you've got to play around with?
So I recently got to play some Daggerheart.
Okay.
And that was fun, and it's very different than playing D&D, and I think that's good. It's really good, especially if you want to design that you play other things, because there's D&D is very good at what it does. And I absolutely love it. It's my favorite. But it's very good to see how other games do what they do and how their mechanics reinforce their themes and things like that, and to kind of get a good feel for kind of what the landscape looks like. So I play Daggerheart. I love Call of Cthulhu. Okay. That's one of my other favorite games ever to play. But I'm not sure if that's a mechanics-wise or if that's just a general story setting vibes-wise. And I've been really lucky that I've had some really great storytellers to run me through that, because when I started gaming, I started gaming with theater people.
Daggerheart should be right up their alley.
Yes, absolutely. So, and that's it's actually really interesting seeing people who we started with the more your more traditional gamer, where they're more focused on mechanics and strategies and things like that, versus playing with a bunch of theater folks who are more focused on the narrative and the role play and the storytelling. And so watching those two sort of worlds come together is always very interesting. But yeah, so Daggerheart is a very narrative storytelling game. The mechanics try to facilitate that, right? So Yeah,
I've only
Call of
played a
Cthulhu.
one shot of Daggerheart, but yeah.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. It does, like, absolutely, if you're used to playing D&D, picking up other games can take some adjustment. Like
Sure.
I said, Daggerheart's very different. Like, there's not really initiative. You have the player's turn, and everybody can kind of go. Which, like, if you're a D&D player who like lives and dies by your initiative tracker, like, it's like, wait, what do I do?
Mechanically, that was the thing I found the most interesting about the CosmereRPG, because I hate rolling for initiative. Because it's one of those, like, logically, and I understand it's a game, we have to suspend logic at some point, but it's like, logically, it doesn't make sense that I would roll a dice and then we just keep going in the same order over and over. So, like, they do, it's a little blend of, I've never played a lot of Pathfinder, but I guess it's a blend of Pathfinder without the rolling, where you declare if you're taking a fast or slow turn at the beginning of each round.
Gotcha.
And depending on whether you're going fast or slow is how many actions you get. So I find that interesting. Daggerhearts is a little too loosey-goosey for me.
It's very loosey-goosey.
Like, I'm a big fan of give me rules, and then I'll break them.
Right.
But at least give me some structure. Yeah. Daggerheart was a little too loose for me. Yeah. But that was just my personal taste. But also, I've only been GMing now for 2 years. I was a player, but I've only stepped behind the screen the last couple of years. So, like, I think that's also my comfort. Yeah, thank you. It's very much like, I need that comfort of, like, I know the rules.
Yes.
And then we can mess around with it as we go. Because rule of cool is always going to win at the table. Now, this is just a fun question. If you had your choice of any setting to play in, and it doesn't have to be an IP, like, whether it's high fantasy, low fantasy, urban fantasy, sci-fi,
gosh.
What would be your favorite? What would be the one setting you would want to see either more of or just write in because you're like, this would be awesome?
I love gothic horror.
Yeah.
I just, like, Curse of Strahd, man. Like, it's so good. And I recently wrote for Kobold Press their Night Hunters source book, which is all horror and, like, the various genres of horror and things like that. I'm really excited that D&D's coming out with more Ravenloft, and I know some folks are like, more Ravenloft. I'm like, no, give it all to me. I want all of it. And I mean, you know, like I said, I love Call of Cthulhu, so I love, there's something really evocative about playing in a horror-based setting, especially if you're like, we're the big damn heroes and we're gonna swing our swords, and it's like, well, you can't always like when you're in this kind of setting. So the complex choices and emotional damage that you take in those settings is just, it's a lot of fun for me. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to shout out, like socials, stuff you have coming out?
Sure. You can find me. My website is unfetteredmuse.com.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. I came up with it on the fly when I made a Twitter handle, however many years ago that was. My socials are, I'm not on Twitter anymore. I am on Blue Sky at unfetteredmuse. I'm on Instagram at unfetteredmuse. But if you go to my website, you can find all those. I link to them. I do have my book that just came out a couple weeks ago, When the Stars Bleed, Mass Effect-inspired space opera. If you missed it at the beginning, go grab that. And I'm also right now working on the Legends of Avantris is doing a Neon Odyssey. So it's this neon Saturday morning cartoon anime inspired crazy galaxy space opera nonsense. It's so good. And their Kickstarter for that goes live in a couple of weeks, I believe. So you can become a VIP if you want to. Go check that out. And yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time with me, especially because some weirdo just emailed you out of the blue. So I really appreciate you sitting down with me. Feel free to stay in touch, and if you ever want to hop back on and just talk about some stuff you got coming out. But until next time, let's roll the plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.
Welcome to Complicated Opportunities. I wanted to give you a heads up on this episode. Our audio was definitely a little out of whack. So I have made sure to preserve the guest as much as possible. But I did want to give everyone the heads up that my audio during this interview will be a little off, but that's okay. Because honestly, you get to hear what Kritter XD was talking about, which is the more important part. So, hope you enjoy this interview from JordanCon.
Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. and I'm back at JordanCon. Today I am joined by Kritter. She is a content creator that does a lot of different cosplay, talks about the Wheel of Time, some Lord of the Rings, a little bit of the Cosmere, Fourth Wing I noticed.
Yeah.
Which my wife would be very happy to hear about. She loves those books. But yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll just have a conversation.
Sure. I'm Kritter XD. You can find me on almost all of the social medias except for Facebook for some reason. Well, because it's evil. But I, as he said, I primarily talk about the Wheel of Time, the Cosmere, Lord of the Rings. Just sci-fi fantasy generally is kind of my bread and butter. I talk about show adaptations of those works. So I'm really excited about the Cosmere adaptation that's coming on Apple TV, especially because Apple TV is awesome at shows. I was a big Wheel of Time fan. A Wheel of Time show fan while it was out, so the cancellation was devastating, and after the cancellation I worked super hard on the Save Watt campaign, which so far has not had any fruits of our labor, but maybe someday. And yeah, so I'm just here having a good time at JordanCon.
Awesome. Yeah, this is my first JordanCon, so like it's been a lot of fun getting to just see everybody see Wheel of Time cosplay, which is great. Yeah. I only see that at Nexus, so.
Right.
Yeah, so like what got you into the content creation and cosplay game?
So in like 2020, 2021, when we were all secluded in our houses, I started Wheel of Time reread because I'd already read the books and I love them. They're my favorite series of all time. And I tweeted about the like Fires of Heaven, something about it. And I found out that there was an entire online Wheel of Time community, otherwise known as Twitter of Time at the time, and they dogpiled me. They just I mean in a good way. They were like, "Oh my God, we love Wheel of Time. Welcome to Wheel of Time. Welcome to," it was like, it was overwhelming in the best way because obviously we were also isolated, and I felt like I had an immediate community that was so ready to talk to me about my favorite books, and so I created an alternate Twitter handle, Egwene Alvear, because I was like, okay, she's my favorite character. There's nobody else with like an active account that's her. And there were a bunch of character accounts, like people in character tweeting about the Wheel of Time. So I became Egwene Alvear on Twitter. And then like the rest is history. The show news, every time show news came out, Twitter of Time exploded. And I was all a part of that. At the same time, I was on TikTok like so many other people were, just scrolling. And then I saw a post, somebody being like, what's one Wheel of Time name that you were shocked to find out what it's supposed to be pronounced as? And so I stitched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, Nynaeve, right? I used to call her Nineveh for some unexplained reason before I used the audiobooks, and that, like, by my standards, blew up, right? It got like 40,000 views, which to me felt hyper viral, and it was so funny because I was just like, oh my gosh, people actually care about the Wheel of Time on TikTok. So then I started posting about the Wheel of Time on TikTok too, and I haven't stopped since about 2020, 2021.
It was fun when I saw your name on the guest list. I was like, oh, I follow her. Like, I'd love to have a conversation with her just because I've only read the Wheel of Time all the way through once. I've picked once I read a series, then I just kind of cherry pick where I want to read.
Sure.
The Shadow Rising, Fires of Heaven are they're all one book in my head. I keep going them backwards what happens in which one because I barreled through those so fast when I got them.
Yeah.
But I started following, I think it was on TikTok was the first place I saw you.
That makes sense.
And I started following you on Instagram too. So.
Nice. Well, I appreciate the follow.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So let's do with the books first.
Sure.
So which one's your favorite book? You already said Egwene's your favorite character.
Yeah, and so partially because of that, The Gathering Storm is my favorite book.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's which is interesting because that's the first book that Brandon Sanderson wrote,
right.
And I just actually had the chance to talk to him yesterday, and he mentioned that Egwene's plot in The Gathering Storm was almost completely outlined already by Robert Jordan for him. So like it's interesting that, the reason that she's one of the big reasons she's my favorite character is the plot from that book, and the plot from that book did still come from Robert Jordan, even though the book was written by Brandon Sanderson. So it feels good because it's Robert Jordan's series at its core. And I don't have to feel guilty about picking one that he didn't actually write.
And I will say we can definitely be all spoilers all the time on this, but so if there are specific plot points you want to talk about, we'll be fine.
Okay, I know. All right.
It's been out for, Memory of Light's been out for, 12 years?
Okay, well, let's just say that Egwene pops off whenever the White Tower is attacked in the Gathering Storm, and she does some real work. She becomes an extreme, leader among women who otherwise would not have considered her a leader necessarily, and they just started following her because of how compelling she was, and she's just so dang powerful and badass. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
No F-bombs, otherwise we're good.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So anyway, she's just such a badass in that book, and I love her so much. So Plus, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, plus her overall arc in the books is just really satisfying because she starts as a little girl who you're kind of just like, she's tagging along, whatever. She wants to learn. That's cute. And then she just becomes this force. So I really appreciate her.
Yeah, and I mean, and I even love her arc in Memory of Light. Like, I think
same.
So bittersweet, but so good.
No,
I'm getting emotional thinking about it. It's
I know.
Awesome.
Yeah, people get mad about it, but for me, I think like somebody had to do that, and the fact that
very selfless character.
That's exactly right. And a lot of people say she's selfish, but then all I have to do is point to A Memory of Light and be like, no, she's not. Have you read the books? Oh my gosh, like what they gave her to work with in season 2 and the way that she stepped up to the plate, like she blew me away. She made me cry. She gave me goosebumps. Like I think she really nailed, especially her Damani arc, with the Shan-Chan.
Which also we got Krishna, one of the players from our actual play series. We got to interview Nikki yesterday, the composer. Yeah. I told him, I was like, I know everybody talks about you about Hills of Tanchico. Yeah. But dude, that Damani theme is just as creepy as it should be. Yeah. And like, it sketches me out hearing it. Mm-hmm. I really think they captured the spirit of that arc. Because like, obviously they couldn't cover as much as you would in a book. You have 8 episodes to cover a 1,100 page book or whatever.
But it's so interesting that in that arc specifically, they took a single line from the book, which was something about how, she wasn't allowed to touch the water jug for a week because she thought of it as a weapon one time, right? Mm-hmm. That was one line, and that became an entire episode. A super, super...
Probably the best episode of that
intense
season.
Episode. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I know you're a big fan of the show. I am as well, so haters... whatever. Yeah. So just kind of walk me through your thoughts from like the kind of beginning to end. We both agree. We talked before this, and we both agreed that season 3, 10 out of 10. Yeah. But we can get there. Yeah. So like, just what do you think when the show is coming out?
I mean, I could not have been more excited. I think my hype levels were 1,000 because my favorite book series was becoming a show, and it looked like the casting was amazing, and Rosamund Pike was on board. And then whenever it came out, I was also still just extremely pleased. Rosamund Pike as Moraine actually became my favorite character from the show, even though Egwene's my favorite character from the books, just because they expanded her character in a way that she no longer was the mysterious Gandalf character that you didn't really know what she was thinking at any moment, and you got a fully fleshed out, person. She had friends, she had lovers, you knew not exactly what she was thinking, but like you knew way more about her than you knew in the books, which I loved. So season 1 was interesting because COVID happened right in the middle of shooting, and so they lost their Matt. So they had 2 episodes left where they didn't have Matt Cawthon, one of the arguable, like, most main characters in that series. So
especially at that point in the story.
Especially in that point in the story, right? He had just gotten his dagger. It was rough. So they had to rewrite, essentially. And so I think that season suffered from COVID as far as, quality. Granted, I was so hyped about it and I enjoyed it so much that I'd still give it like a 7 out of 10, but it wasn't what it could have been, honestly. And they were still getting their feet and stuff. And, they didn't have necessarily the budget that they might have wanted. The weaves weren't colorful, like all that stuff. But that can be explained away by, the Nynaeve and Egwene didn't know about weaves. So maybe we're seeing the weaves from their perspective. But then season 2 came out and it was a huge improvement, in my opinion. It was
jump immediately.
Yeah, massive jump. It was plagued a little bit, I think, by both the writer's strike and the actor's strike. Like the actors couldn't promote the show, which probably hurt it from like a viewership perspective, even though they still did really well objectively. But no, I think the story definitely got better. Obviously, Egwene's arc was the highlight for me, and I think for a lot of people in that season. But also the arrival of Lanfear was huge.
She knocked it out.
Yeah, she was super compelling. Love her. And so that season was good. Like, it was good. That's probably given an 8, right? It was good to great, in my opinion, because I love the Wheel of Time. Right. There were changes that I wouldn't have made necessarily, but you know what? That's okay. They had to condense a huge amount of books, and we all have our favorite stuff. And then season 3 was a 10 out of 10. I thought it was incredible. The Ruidion episode was unlike any other. It's probably my favorite episode of TV, period, not just Wheel of Time, because it's exactly what I wanted from the show. You couldn't have done it any better. The costuming was incredible. The music was incredible. The acting was amazing. Yosha knocked it out of the park. Like, you had seen him do well, but that was finally Yosha, the guy who plays Rand. You saw him just fully embrace the character, and it was just so good. And the visuals, my God, it was giving, if you've seen Blade Runner 2049 or like Denis Villeneuve, like that kind of cinematography. And so I just loved it so much. And then I felt like I liked the ending. Granted, the unexpected deaths shocked me, but it was in a really good way. And Sophie Okonedo, the actress, blew me away with her kind of swan song. I did not mean that to be a pun, but anyways, her delivery of that final speech was incredible, and seeing her reaction to what was happening and then Moraine's reaction to what happened to Swan was just so heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, but emotional and incredible that I'll forgive them because it was a good cinematic moment. And then Loyal's death was way more surprising for me than Swan's, because I had honestly kind of predicted that they might not keep Swan around as long as they did in the books, but Loyal I did not expect. Although just yesterday, I think, Sarah Nakamura, who was a book consultant on the show, she mentioned that it wasn't guaranteed that Loyal was dead. It was gonna be up to the actor whether he wanted to come back or not.
I'm sure putting on the prosthetics every day wasn't the
an absolute burden. Honestly, like, I wonder if he would have just been gone for a few seasons and then he'd been like, oh yeah, I'm free. I guess I can do this again, and then he could pop back in. But that would have been really funny if he did show back up.
Yeah, there were so many moments I loved in the show. The first season was what it was because they were finding their footing, they were getting the budget figured out.
Yeah.
You know? But even then, like the attack when Emmons Field still hit just like it did in the book.
Yeah.
City of Shadows.
Shadar Logoth.
Yes, because
I was going to say Shadar Haran, but that's a different dude. So.
But the city was awesome.
Yeah.
They just did such a good job with the production and the casting. Like, you could tell there were fans of the show involved. Like, you could tell Rafe was a fan of the books. You could tell Rafe was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the studios are always going to get in the way no matter what you're doing. Like, I'm excited to hear how much creative control Brandon has for Apple. But even then, I'm sure Apple will still have their hands in it because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
But man, season 2, like, the guy, I forget his name, the guy that played Shamael, like...
Oh my gosh, Faris.
Now, don't get me wrong, like, he definitely brought a lot more Morden.
He did, yeah. No, my husband said the same thing because he's a huge Morden fan, and he's like, "This guy's not a Shamael. He's Morden.
He's straight up Morden as soon as he shows up on screen."
Yeah,
which I'm cool with.
Yeah.
But he played. I just felt like he really grasped that like feel of Morden just being done with
nihilism.
Yes, he really did, and that is why I find Morden more interesting than Shamael. In the latter half of the series, but because he also that character just plays such a foil to Rand later. So like it was, I felt like I was getting a lot of memory of like feel from him, which was awesome.
Well, not to mention the finale of season 1 was very Memory of Light coded, right? Yes. Rand didn't like do some of the stuff that he did at the end of the first book. Instead, he had a trial run essentially for the end of A Memory of Light, in my mind. Like,
which would have been great to see.
Yeah, like full circle, or a wheel, one might say.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, season 3, like, I can't sing season 3's praises enough.
I know. The fact that it got canceled is so infuriating.
But like, because even Elaine, like, because I'm one of those people that like Elaine's not necessarily my favorite character in the book.
Yeah.
But I really thought the actress brought a lot to that character.
Yeah.
Made her a little more 3-dimensional.
Sure.
And not that Elaine's not 3-dimensional in the books, like because I don't think there's a bad character in the books.
Yeah.
Like 14 book series that's keeping my attention, you've got to be pretty good.
Yeah.
That series is fantastic.
Yeah. I'd say the worst character, and this is not an unpopular opinion, but it is controversial for me, is Min. Because have you heard the sexy lamp theory?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, let me clue you in that Min, for some people, became a sexy lamp towards the end of the series because essentially she just hangs out in Rand's room and...
Yeah, that's true.
Does it. With it. Like, she is his woman in waiting, essentially. Even though, I mean, some people are like, well, she's doing research and reading, but whenever you ultimately look at her contributions, like, almost all the information that she comes up with, it also comes from different sources, and so she's meaningless. Whereas in the beginning half of the series, she's fun. She's a fun, compelling character. So, anyways, now you know.
Interesting. Like, I did the audiobooks, so, like, I also just enjoyed how Kate played Min.
Yes,
so that I probably didn't catch that as much as somebody who was just a reader at first.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, of the 3 Min, I would say Min is probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. I love.
Oh, same.
Like, yeah, Avi and all that. The Aiel in general. Like,
yeah.
Man, Give me more Aiel. I'll take a whole Aiel series.
I'm right there with you. I'm obsessed. I mean, I dressed up as a Maiden of the Spear on Friday for a reason. Like
great, by the way.
Thank you. Well, actually, one of my first gamer tags ever was Farderace Mai, which means Maiden of the Spear. So, like, I have street cred when it comes to my love of the Aiel.
That is fantastic. Yeah, the Aiel, man. When they show up in the book, so this might be a hot take. I actually like that the show was switching the Aiel waste with the Stone Tier.
Yes, I agree.
Because I'm like, mind you, it is a cool play on the prophecy that the Aiel were involved, but not I think it would have landed harder with Rand showing up to Tyr with an army of Aiel.
Yes.
That just is a really cool visual. So for television, it totally makes sense.
1,000%.
I don't know that the story wouldn't have been better that way too, but I'll just be a little quiet there.
It was, I mean, honestly though, I love the end of the third book where Matt comes in and he's just like chaos demon, you know what I mean? And so I think we would have missed out on some of that if it was a plan thing where Rand is assaulting the stone. And I just love my Matt redemption arc because in the first 2 books, he's such a pain in the butt, with his dagger, and finally he's liberated from it. And so just for the sake of Matt, but for the show, I'm totally with you. I feel like they could have fused the Stone of Tyr with Carian. Like the Shido could have headed to Tyr instead of Carian and assaulted Tyr for some reason. Maybe Couladin thought he needed Kalandor. I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but it would have made a lot of sense for Rand to assault.
Well, knowing they were only going to plan 8 seasons anyway.
Exactly.
8 seasons of 8 episodes to cover a 14 book series.
Wild.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
And ambitious in some ways. So there were definitely things you have to do with that because Brandon's even for I don't know how much of the Cosmere you've read. Are you?
I've read all the Cosmere, except for White Sands. That's I think technically part of the Cosmere.
It is. Brandon keeps kicking the can down the road of writing the prose version, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I have the graphic novel or whatever it is, but I've never read it.
So do you have a graphic audio that's out of White Sands?
Do they? Okay. Well, I'm an audiobook girly to my core, so that's why I haven't read it because everything that comes out on audiobook I'll read almost immediately.
Yeah, the graphic audio of it pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the comic is what it is. That's probably, it's nobody's real hot take that's the least thing that people read in the Cosmere.
Oh, well then I don't feel bad.
Yeah, but Brandon's mentioned for Mistborn, a lot of the action moves away from Luthadel in 3. He's for the movies we'll probably just have to add it in Luthadel because that just makes sense.
It's practical, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely see them combining Kyrian and Stone of Tyr into kind of one thing.
We already did Carian. We did Carian in season 2, so let's move on.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, so is there anything else about the show you wanted to cover? Definitely still try to save that darn thing if we can.
I mean, if we can.
I'll take an animated version at this point.
Well, that's allegedly in the works with Iwat, who has the rights to the Wheel of Time's TV and movie adaptations. So there's allegedly an Age of Legends prequel in the works. I think that one's going to be live action. I think, and then. I think
that is ambitious to take the Age of Legends.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's a video game that's allegedly in the works. The thing about Iwat is they have so many irons in the fire at any given moment that the fans have been conditioned to not get their hopes up.
It's we'll believe it when we see it.
That's kind of exactly right. Yeah. And so granted, there are people that work there that I have a lot of faith in. So I think if things get off the ground, they could be really excellent. I'll just believe it when I see it.
I did think of one thing. I just wanted to, I'm sure since we both talked about it in an episode, how cool was it to see the breaking of the world?
Oh my God. That was, literally, my whole body was covered in goosebumps. I had the chills. It was wild. Visually stunning.
When that's one of those things that, because I've only read through beginning to end once, I didn't catch that's what the breaking was like.
Yeah.
And then seeing it, I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. One, why it's called that.
Yeah.
But two, just how humans, we always mess up everything, right?
I know, yeah.
It's it is interesting that it's seeing some of the backstory of the Forsaken is always fun because sometimes the Forsaken definitely can feel villain of the week,
yes,
almost caricatures
in the books especially.
Which
yeah,
at that point they've all been basically insane for 1,000,
right,
2,000 years, so they're gonna be kind of caricatures. But
yeah,
I think the show did a really good Forsaken in a ways. So that was fun seeing Lanfear when she was an Aes Sedai and how driven by knowledge she was, and that thirst for knowledge then led to her downfall too, which is so cool.
It's giving Saruman, if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, for sure. So anyway, yeah, I just thought about that and was like, oh yeah.
No, that was
like it is awesome.
I like that whole. I'm telling you, that episode was like unbeatable for me. I loved it all, honestly.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to sit down with me. I'll let you get back to the con and enjoy the rest of it.
I appreciate that.
It was really fun to talk to you.
It was really good talking to you. This was super fun.
Hopefully, I'll be back next year so we can just say hi. And
yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, there's another adaptation we can talk about.
I mean, fingers crossed.
That's right. Awesome. Well,
let's roll our plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.